We are picking up at chapter 9 of book 2 in Tales from the Odyssey by Mary Pope Osborne. Odysseus has just been in the land of the dead. He's talked to Tiresias. Tiresias has told him, look, you're going to make it home okay. All of your men may be dead, but you're going to make it there okay. Your death, I prophesize or I foretell that your death will not come until you're an old man, and your death will come from the sea. But then Odysseus talks to his mother, and she tells him some bad news. She says, things at home aren't so good. Your father is incredibly sad. Your wife and your son are having a really hard time. And so I think Odysseus is probably going to try his best to hurry home. Let's find out what happens. Chapter 9, I'm on page 163 in my edition, The Warrior Ghost. When the ghost of Odysseus' mother had gone, more spirits came forward to drink from the trench. Odysseus drew his sword and ordered them to approach one at a time. First came the spirits of the wives and the mothers of slain Greek heroes. Then came the ghosts of the great kings and warriors themselves. Among them was the ghost of Agamemnon, high king of the Greek forces during the Trojan War. "My lord, king of us all," Odysseus cried, "you are here." As soon as he had tasted the sheep's blood, Agamemnon recognized Odysseus. He tried to lift his arms to embrace him, but there was little strength or power left in his ghostly being. Odysseus wept tears of pity. Until now he had not known that Agamemnon had died. Now they sat and talked with one another, the living man on one side of the trench and the ghost of the mighty king on the other. "What fate brought you here?" asked Odysseus. "Did you drown in a terrible storm at sea? Did an enemy strike you down in some great fight?" Agamemnon told Odysseus that he had been slain by his own queen. So his wife killed him. "But you will not meet the same end, Odysseus," the ghost of Agamemnon assured him. "Your wife, Penelope, is loyal to you. She is a most admirable woman. When you left her, she was little more than a girl. When you return, she and your son will be waiting to embrace you and work with you on your farm." As Odysseus and the spirit of Agamemnon sat weeping and talking, the ghosts of warriors came and sat with them. Warriors who had fought valiantly in the Trojan War. Among them was great Achilles, the bravest of all the Greeks. "Odysseus, what a daring thing you do now," said Achilles. "Why have you traveled here to be with the ghost of the dead?" Odysseus told Achilles and the others about his journey and how he had come to meet with the ghost of Tiresias. He praised Achilles, calling him a prince among the dead. "Ah, perhaps," said Achilles, "but I would rather be a poor man's servant in the world of the living than a king of kings in the land of the dead." He says, "I would rather be poor and alive than dead and rich." The ghosts of other dead warriors each told Odysseus their sad tales. And to each ghost Odysseus gave news about the living. Then Odysseus saw Tantalus, a king whose great pride had angered the gods. Their punishment for him was eternal hunger and thirst. Tantalus was forced to stand in water up to his chin, with fruit trees drooping overhead, their branches laden with pears, apples, and figs. Whenever Tantalus lowered his head to drink the water dried up. When he reached up to clutch the fruit, the wind blew the branches into the air. Next, Odysseus saw Sisyphus, a cruel king whom the gods had condemned to forever roll a huge rock uphill. Every time Sisyphus reached the top of the hill, the rock rolled back down the slope, and Sisyphus had to start all over again. So these are people who were horrible in their lives living, cruel kings, people who are too prideful, and as a result, they're tortured in the afterlife. They're tortured while they're dead in this land of the dead. Odysseus then saw the mighty Heracles. The great warrior stared into the distance, holding his bow in his hands, his arrow on the string. For all time, he would stand poised to take aim. So he's always standing there like this. He never gets to put his arms down, right? As Odysseus looked through the mist for the spirits of more heroes, he saw that thousands of ghosts were moving slowly towards him. Their voices were soft at first, Then they grew louder and louder. The spirits were crowding close around Odysseus, crying out for his help. Odysseus felt a wave of panic. In terror, he turned and fled from the spirits of the dead. His men followed him back through Persephone's grove until they came to their ship. Odysseus led the way on board and ordered the Greeks to set sail at once. The men rowed swiftly across the river of Oceanus. They kept rowing until they felt a breeze and opened their sails. As dawn's rosy light glittered on the wine-dark sea, Odysseus finally caught his breath. His mind roamed over the past year, the nightmare of the cannibal giants, the long stay in Circe's palace, and his visit to the haunted realm of Hades and Persephone. Odysseus grieved for his dead mother and felt more anxious than ever to see his father before the old man also died. More than anything, he longed to be reunited with his loving wife and son before harm came to them. Odysseus's heart ached, almost more than he could bear. Still, he rejoiced that he was in the world of the living and not trapped forever in the dark land of the dead. And that is the end of book 2. I'm looking ahead because I can't help but kind of wonder. Book 3 starts out, it's called Sirens and Sea Monsters, and the first chapter is called The Land of the Living. So I assume we can think Odysseus is probably going to be back in the land of the living in this next book, but I think he's got some things to face. Remember, Tiresias has told him to make sure that your men do not eat the sheep and the cattle of the sun god, or the sun god will curse you and you guys will never make it home. Now, we know that Odysseus's men are not always the best listeners, so it will be interesting to see if they take his advice on this one. You guys have a great afternoon. See you next time.